We are just hours away from the start of the first semi-final match in the T20 World Cup 2021 with England taking on the mighty New Zealanders. We can call them mighty. And why so? Because the tag that was being carried on by the two mighty forces in world cricket has supposedly been shattered and been taken over by other unassuming heroes, and perhaps rightly so. I'm joined here today again by Mr. Vernon Springer, who's been our unrelenting guide at Rapidleaks to tell us about the insights of the West Indies cricket, the Caribbean cricket, and what went wrong, the reasons, and some positive areas and whatnot. So what has been a strange unraveling of sorts, I'm sure he would agree. But today we wanted to wrap up our final episode talking about what really went wrong to the Caribbean campaign. It's a team, make no mistake, which we all love. It's a team, make no mistake, which has won not one, but 3 World Cup titles, which is, if you are kind enough to remember, the great triumph of the ladies, led by Stephanie Taylor in 2016. Unfortunately, 2021 turned out to be something like a root shock, and Mr. Springer is going to be put across some questions too, and I'm sure he'll be able to help me figure out what has been this great mystery, which has been troubling me, and not just me, our friends here in India, people who really love and adore the Caribbean cricket. So over to you, sir. Welcome for being here. Welcome to Rapidleaks. And how are you today? How's Antigua today?
It's wonderful, and it's wonderful to be alive. And I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be able to talk about this noble game called cricket.
Yes. Yes. So, are you shocked? What are your first impressions now that both our favorite teams, I mean, India, West Indies, both are out, and specifically the reigning champions, the defending champions? How would you describe your emotions and why?
Well, like many fans around the world and in the West Indies, you know, there will be some disappointment. And first, we also have to understand that these are human beings. Where did it all go wrong is another discussion that we can have here today. But I think one would have to give credit to Cricket West Indies, because the preparation of this team, unlike previous T20 World Cups, has been far surmounting. You know, even in the build-up before the World Cup, they would have had like 17 T20 games. So Cricket West Indies would have done their part in preparing the team for the defense of the World Cup. But saying that, you know, 4 semi-finals in 6 editions of the ICC T20 World Cup, 2-time champions, I don't think that you really can fault them. They have been there. It might not have been the consistent way that you expect them to perform all the time, but I think looking ahead, there is some talent, and we will go through the talent in terms of moving ahead. There are a number of questions which you personally have to ask yourselves, you know, our tactics going into the T20 World Cup, you know, and some of the comments that were made, you know, before the press and before the start of the World Cup. Then you had a feud between Sir Curtly Ambrose and one of the finest cricketers, Chris Gale. Were these things really handled properly? Then you had another feud between the captain, Kyron Pollard, and a media journalist in Guyana. I don't think the team really needed that sort of distraction. Unlike an Indian team where you didn't hear from a Virat Kohli in the build-up before the start of the T20 World Cup. But for the West Indies, you know, there were just a number of personnels that were speaking that I don't think needed to be in the media, but should have been concentrating themselves on the game. The first media shot they had was with Phil Simmons, and then the next date was with Kyron Pollard. Now, people already in the Caribbean, because of the insularity and because of the emotions, were grimming that, you know, this person should have made it, that person should have made it, XYZ should have been made it. But in fairness, like I said to Cricket West Indies, they would have set out their policy. And if anybody was following during the build-up, you would have known that the CPL really was just the icing on the cake, and that the squad for the T20 World Cup, they would have maybe had 10, 14 players before, and they would have had to take some extraordinary efforts from someone in the CPL to be able to get into the mix of the team. Raston Chase, who in 2020 performed well during the Caribbean Premier League, came and continued his dominance. And so he
Became the
fitted
player
in,
of the tournament.
yes, nicely. So he really would have gone to the tournament. Somebody like a Shai in Rutherford would have missed out, and because Cricket West Indies had their policy about fitness standards, I'm saying to you, Dev, going forward, even though Cricket West Indies will have fitness standards that they set up for players, I am saying that once the Caribbean Premier League or the CPL is going to take place in the Caribbean and the date is set, negotiations and an announcement must take place before the start of the CPL. There's a build-up. Every West Indian player knows that Cricket West Indies are going to have a fitness test before the CPL starts. The players can, or they can take it, or they cannot be interested. But at least the people in the Caribbean, the general public, the media, everybody in the world knows that these 90 players took a fitness test and 85 passed. And you don't have to say who didn't pass the fitness test, but you just put on the card that these 85 players are start. So I feel that that is the first thing that we're going to start. I hear a lot of people talking about fitness standards. I don't think, to be honest with you, Dev, that we're supposed to be querying about fitness standards. Because when you go to the IPL, you have to meet fitness requirements. When you go to the Big Bash, you have to meet fitness requirements. When you go to the 100 in England, you have to meet fitness requirements. When you go to the Sri Lanka League, when you go to wherever you go, there are standards that are set. And players are getting paid. So if you're getting paid, then you hire a trainer, you hire a nutritionist, you hire a coach to look after your game. And I find too many of our West Indian players waiting on people to look after them. You getting paid? Look after yourself, invest in yourself. So this norm about...
Or in your language, put some miles under them legs.
Well, it is important. Based on what's happening with the bubble situation in sports going all around the world right now, it's tough. You realize what happened to Michael Goff, who's an umpire. Even him and all felt the sort of pressure that he just decided to see if he could just go down the road and get out of his own stuff. Little did he know that it was going to cause that big explosion. So living in a bubble, sportsmen and women and officials living in a bubble going forward is not going to be easy. And so that's why you got to be able to prepare yourself, not only mentally, but you physically got to build on your immune system to make sure that you survive.
Right. So let me ask you this, and thank you for sharing such great insights. It may sound like this is like fanboy speak, but I want to tell our listeners and readers on rapidleaks.com this today, that the person on the other side of the screen, he's somebody much more than being an individual whose heart beats for West Indies cricket or cricket. He's actually a wearer of multiple hats: cricket administrator, team manager, fitness instructor, journalist, multimedia journalist rather, podcaster, interviewer, radio show host, talk show host. So when you have somebody from such a diverse background in life, or his wisdom on a sport which he's been connected for the past 3 decades, if not less, you're going to hear all sorts of things: positive, negative, full of wisdom. But at the end of the day, what is important is to understand that world cricket, as Mr. Springer says, needs a strong West Indies team. Now, in order to have that strong West Indies team, there is fitness, which he rightly mentioned, needs great attention, but at the same time does not need the world coming crashing down on it. Am I right, sir? Having said that, every team has some positives and negatives. We understand the negative, and it's the blaring reality that the men's 2-time World Cup winning team is no longer in the tournament, which it was expected to set alive with fireworks. But what have been some of the fine positives that you would draw as somebody who's followed this team and who interacts with this team in a certain capacity? What have been some of the positives that you would want to bring to our listeners?
Well, let's look, Dev, at the West Indies performance. And if you follow by stats, it really doesn't look glaring. In terms of the batting, Shimon Hetmeyer scored the most runs, 127 runs, 100 balls. He faced 38 balls, highest score of 81. Evan Lewis, 105 runs, 81 balls, faced dot balls was 45. For Hetmeyer, he had 38 dot balls, high score of 56. Nicholas Puran, 103 runs. His standard doesn't indicate that much. Next behind was Kyron Pollard with 90, high score 44. Rustin Chase with 48. Chris Gale with 45. You know, he would want to put that one behind him. So there was nothing really much to shout about. Then you had Akil Hussain, who replaced Fabian Allen, who ended with the most wickets, 5 wickets from 126 runs. Andrew Russell, 3 wickets, 123 runs. He again continues to be a disappointment.
Absolutely.
I would say to you that Hetmeyer showed glimpses of form, but again, there was no consistency into where they wanted to bat Hetmeyer. So it was a sort of kind of confusing situation. There were mixed messages coming out of the West Indies management team. And let's look at the first game. We had 2 warm-up games. Your batting was the problem from since in the Caribbean. Rustin Chase comes in and scores a half century. In fact, so on this World Cup campaign, you would have only had 3 players that would have scored half centuries. Rustin Chase would have been one of those players to complement with Evan Lewis and Shimon Hetmeyer. But Chase does not start. And the head coach is saying that they played the best 11. You can't play your best 11 when Lendl Simmons really was off the boil and out of form. Because what has actually happened, the social media commentators forced the pressure for Gale to go back and open with Evan Lewis and for Rustin Chase to come back into the team. So it shows you that the West Indies thinking and their thinking was almost like emotions. Because some folks in Guyana and some folks in Trinidad and some folks in Barbados wielded the pressure, it's like everybody just tried to settle and say, okay, well, yeah, let's play these guys rather than looking at the context in terms of what's happening. And I thought sometimes during the context of the T20 World Cup, there were times when Chase was sent that you didn't need to send Chase. And that to me, I think is, you know, mixed signals to the team. Now, if Nicholas Puran is going to be a number 3 batsman and Hetmeyer is going to be a number 4 batsman, depending on the situation, and I'm saying if you lose 2 wickets, and West Indies were always just losing wickets, so they were never really in any settled game plan. So it's always had to be alteration all the time. And the reason for that was that, let's look at even Evan Lewis. Evan Lewis got to 56 off 20 balls. There has to be game awareness. You have to understand as a leader, as a batter, that if I get to 56 off 20 balls, for West Indies to win, it's just like I'm chasing a target. So even though you're batting first, you have to see that I have to get a big one. And a big one means a big 100, which could inspire the team. That didn't happen. And to me, those little sparks is what the West Indies need. Right. Nicholas Puran going great.
Even in the, sorry, just a point on Lewis, sir. So, you know, a couple of things will always stay with me about Evan Lewis in this World Cup. In the game against South Africa, and I'm stunned that why is there not a single website which calls itself a West Indies supporting website? The so-called journalists out there, and not just the West Indian journalists who are concerned about this great team, this great bastion of excellence that West Indies was and can still be and must be. Why did they not question Lendl Simmons? You know, the start that West Indies got, rather the lack of it in the game against South Africa. And I'm just building on the point in Lewis. It was a slow start, and Evan Lewis repaired it. And then, as you're rightly saying, and then he just threw it away. And then again, similarly in the game against Australia, you remember the 29 runs he made of 26 deliveries, I believe? He had again hit a couple of boundaries, and there was no reason to sky one, taking the big risk against a person who's not afraid to flight the ball in Adam Zampa. And the end result, giving Stephen Smith perhaps the catch of the day award. He took a magnificent catch. But there was no need to flirt with danger because I think, I think Evan Lewis got out in, and I have here the stat in the 10th over at the midway stage. Even if he would have batted at least, you target bat till 13 overs, 14 overs, 15 overs. If a T20 batsman, correct me if I'm wrong, bats on till 15 overs, he's done the equivalent of batting out in until 40 overs in an ODI game. If that would have happened, so it's again like the big question of what if. What do you think?
Well, it's not even a matter of what if, it's the preparation, because somebody has to put their hand up. In cricket, normally, if you look around, you would see that batters between 1 to 4 always put their hand up, and once they get a start, they try and make sure that they can capitalize on it. I don't think anybody would have got out the West Indian batters during the T20 World Cup. The West Indian batters got out themselves because they played reckless shots, and because they have this mindset that they have to keep it in boundaries, they got to keep hitting sixes rather than looking to rotate the strike. And that's why in so many games, our high percentage of dot balls really hampered us, because rather than thinking about looking to get singles, we were thinking about looking to get maximums. And I think that is a mindset which we really have to change. It comes down now to the point, can the coaching staff take this team to another level? These are questions that are going to be asked. Are the players who are in the West Indies setup, are they given clear roles? Do they understand what their roles are? Are investment being made in our players? And I will say this to you. Let's look at O'Shane Thomas, who was selected for the T20 World Cup.
To play a single game.
And didn't play one game. Andrew Fletcher never got a game, right? He maybe went as the backup keeper. But more so, Hayden Walsh played 2 games. Every country around the world, Hasaranga, Zampa, Adil Rashid, Shamsi, every country around the world is investing in a wrist spinner. The West Indies is carrying their wrist spinner to be an emergency fielder rather than investing in him. You have to invest in Hayden Walsh, especially at the white ball level, because if you look at the stats around the world, every country have made their mind up. Now, Hayden Walsh has delivered for you. Against Australia, he was player of the series. So why are you not making sure that he's part of your future in white ball cricket going forward? I don't care who you want to play. If you want to play Holder, you want to play Russell.
Leader of his own bowling and a great person in the sense that he likes to dive around. He is not afraid to take an injury by diving around, which is always something missing from the West Indies fielding department.
Well, it's and that's what I'm saying. So my point is that in the white ball game, you have to invest in him. You have to give him that opportunity and that confidence. And I don't find that the franchises, starting from the Barbados Tridents to the West Indies team, have handled Hayden Walsh Jr. properly to give him that level of confidence, to make him feel that he's one of the guys that we're investing in and that we need him. And so that's why you hear me was asking, can our coaching staff and can our management team take this white ball team to a different level?
Right. There was no word from Phil Simmons about the campaign. Do you think there's something amiss? Shouldn't the coach also be held responsible? And it's just a very fair question, with all due respect to a great dashing batsman.
What is the coach going to say? What is the coach going to say, Dev? He got all the tools that he wanted. While Cricket West Indies would have expended their financial and their support systems to the West Indies senior team.
Because he's answerable. He's answerable too. Is he not?
Yes, he is. But in the Caribbean, how many journalists, what do you think we're going to be hearing? We're going to hear that Rutherford should have gone. We're going to hear that Shepherd should have gone. We're going to hear this person should have gone. Would they have made a difference, Dev? I really don't know if they would have made a difference, to be honest with you. It's neither here nor there. What is confusing to me is that the West Indies selection panel were not clear about what they wanted. Because let's look at Jason Holder. Jason Holder came in for Obed McCoy.
An injury replacement. Can you imagine?
Okay.
And in the first game, 5 balls, 15 runs, and 2 wickets, I believe.
All right. So I say no more. Right. Again, the mechanics and the clear pathway and the roles. You're going to the World Cup and you're going to win the World Cup. So you've decided that you're going to go with Bravo, Gale, Pollard, Lender Simmons, Russell, you name it. Maybe, as I said, it's time to move on. It's really, really, really time to move on. And moving on means, I know a lot of folks are going to say that, you know, we're pretty much harsh. I'm saying the next World Cup is around the corner. It seems as if
it's just
listening
funny.
to what
It already is.
Listening to what Pollard is saying, he looks like he wants to go to the next World Cup. Going to the next World Cup, I see Pollard just going as a player, and I would invest seriously in making sure that Nicholas Pooran goes to the next World Cup as our captain.
That's an interesting point, because I think it was under Nicholas Pooran's captaincy that that is the team which resides in my heart, and WI, thrashed Australia, hung them out to dry 4-1. Is that right? I think he was the captain at that point in time. So
yes, because Pollard was out injured.
Absolutely. But, you know, and I don't want there to be any rabble rousing, and I hope there isn't with what I'm going to say. But I've been a close observer of West Indies cricket for at least last decade, actually more, but last decade of this band of players. I think a great leader is somebody who's, and it's not just important to win or lose with dignity or respect, but it's somebody who can actually step away, not down. In the case where things aren't going for the way you desire, only so that the other person can come and just pull things together and just move on forward. And I don't see Pollard doing that, because I think 3 days back I read an article, I don't know the authenticity of the article, that he's not keen to step down. It's not about stepping down. It's just that you make space. The great Rahul Dravid, the current coach of Indian cricket team, perhaps the most selfless paragon of excellence that world cricket knows, that modern world cricket knows. He stepped away from the game at the time because he knew that his reflexes were slowing down. So I'm not saying any of that is happening to Pollard, but his leadership skills have really been exposed, I believe. I think, and I dare not say this, he seems more of a Mumbai Indian than a West Indian. He seems more comfortable there than leading already a pantheon of match winners. I mean, including he himself, and he's the great Kieron Pollard, you know, the great white ball thrasher, the hitter of sixes, the ambassador of great fortune, which happened also because of his talent and breaks like the West Indies. The West Indians got an IPL. He had to realize that he wasn't doing his job well. I mean, it's not about Ravi Rampal being selected and then what's the logic of not having Fidel Edwards play? Why was he called back? Any which ways. But did Pollard really play the role of the captain who inspired some charisma, who could drive people together? And you're right, if they don't make space for Nicholas Pooran, I don't know what's going to happen in 2022.
Kieron Pollard, onshore in the Caribbean, is the best captain from his years of experience, or one of the best captains from his years of experience in playing.
Agreed. He's very smart.
In the IPL around.
Agreed. But
DJ Bravo also proved that he's an excellent captain. During the World Cup, Kieron Pollard's leadership and pressure came into being, because a number of times you saw him and he just didn't look himself. He didn't have that level of confidence. And you know why? Because a number of the players, when he looked around, were either injured, and he had to kind of think himself on his feet to figure out, boy, where am I going to put this person? Where am I going to go? Because even Pollard himself was injured during the World Cup. So you really didn't get the best of the best out of Pollard. Is he playing too much cricket? That's another question. You maybe have to be able to think about that. Maybe he just needs some time to be able to heal properly. But I'm saying, looking ahead, the West Indies management and the West Indies directors will have to make some real drastic changes. Yes, if Pollard wants to go to the next World Cup, I'm saying Pollard goes as a player, once he can make the team, he goes as a player, but that we have a new captain. And like I'm saying again, I need to start to begin to question our tactics from our coaching staff. If they're going to continue with the same tactics and the same mindset, then we're going to get the same result. We have to invest in players, and we have to be able to give people specific roles and entrusting them confidence to make sure that we say, hey, you're the leader of this pack. Evan Lewis' performance for the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots in the CPL 2021 was because he was promoted as vice captain. He was given a leadership position. So he has to understand that he's now going to be a senior player in the West Indies white ball team going forward. Give him a role. Puran, Lewis, give them roles. Say, you guys, you're going to take this team for the next 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
The 4 years.
They are the drivers of the team. They are the drivers of the team. And sir, please make no mistake and don't hold it against me if that point came across like that. There's no doubt about Pollard's cricketing smarts, by the way. But I tell you where I feel as a pure observer, Pollard is not the greatest player of spin. And I don't want to actually, waste anyone's time into entertaining a counter discussion, because even he knows that he's not the greatest player of spin. I think Andre Russell, on a very bad day, can dispatch spinners than actually, this is the one thing I've been wanting to ask you. Don't you think that it's about time? So, you see a Hetmeyer and you see Puran and you even see the out of form Darren Bravo, the way they use the depth of the crease against spin. Today, if anyone wishes to win a World Cup, forget winning, to become a strong force in the T20 format or in white ball cricket, you cannot have this major box unticked. And I think the fact is that West Indians are not good players of spin at this point in time. You've seen the Brian Laras and others in the past and all that. But you tell me, can you name me 5 batsmen in this current lineup who can handle themselves well on spin? I dare not say, and this is not aimed at anyone. If you put Andre Russell, Christopher Henry Gale, and Kieron Pollard in front of any under 19 Indian spinner who plays Ranji cricket, I'm not sure whether they would be able to put bat to ball for 3 consecutive overs. And honestly,
the fundamentals of the game remain the same, And like I said to you before, if the West Indies mindset is to hit boundaries and to hit sixes, then they're gonna have problems against the spinner. Because what I'm saying, they have already come in with their mind that they're going to take on Hasaranga without looking to see what Hasaranga is bowling. Now, Hasaranga in the series in the Caribbean caused problem, picked up 9 wickets against the West Indies. So you know that we're not playing with spin very well, right? So Jason Holder can bat spin. Jason Holder is one of the better players. Shimon Hetmeyer can bat spin. You also have somebody like Evan Lewis. I think Evan Lewis, if Evan Lewis buckles down, he can bat spin. But like I said, the mindset has to be there. And once you have the right mindset and people put a responsibility on their wicket, I think anything is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One final question about the World Cup campaign. What do you think happened when 55 all out sort of a game happened? And I know it's in the past and we should all move on, but like what just suddenly went wrong? Was it just the tendency to go for the big muscular shots, things described by journalists as lusty blows, for the lack of a better word? Like, what was that? Was that an indication enough about things to follow, which actually happened?
Well, I would say to you that it was a major challenge for broadcasters in the Caribbean, because West Indies getting bowled out for 55 against England. That is almost like, a dagger in your heart, where, you lose, not only losing to England, but you get bowled out on the opening day, the champions, 55. And being able to try to get sponsors so that we could have radio coverage here in Antigua and Barbuda, which going out to the entire region, to the British Virgin Islands. And so a lot of people we were trying to get on board to sponsor the cricket. That went down to the lowest ebb. And so you must understand how hard it was. I don't think people mind West Indies getting bowled out for 55, but it was just a matter of, hey, in the manner in which they got out. And I think that was just the alarming effect of what we would have seen there. And we've been having some real lows, and that was one of the real lows. And like you said, It started low, and we never caught ourselves after that.
Absolutely. Just a couple of last things. Your message to the likes of Hetmeyer, Pooran, Lewis, the great Pollard himself, and I truly mean he's a great white ball player for all that he's accomplished with the talent he has. And this group and holders, these six guys for the next World Cup 2022. What's your message, having seen this scene so closely and having covered them?
Well, let me, before I talk about the future, to be able to salute Christopher Henry Gale and DJ Bravo. I think these two guys, and whether you like it or not, Dev, Darren Sammy, Pollard, DJ Bravo, Chris Gale, Andrew Russell, the likes, would have changed the concept of World T20 cricket, and they brought a brand. It is now...
Why would I not like it? I love it. I've seen them. I miss Marlon Samuels. I really think Marlon Samuels is being missed, honestly.
It is now the turn of the new generation of the Odean Smith, the Dominic Drakes, the Mark Dale. I think Cricket West Indies need to begin to invest in Mark Dale and Hayden Walsh Jr. and Fabian Allen and Akil Hussain. Those should be around our white ball format going forward. And we have to start to unearth new talent. We have talent. We have the Shofi in Weatherford. We have the Odean Smith. We have the talent. I listened to the captain, Kyron Pollard, talking about another T20 tournament. Another T20 tournament is not the answer to the problems that we're having with West Indies cricket. It is the mindset and the coaching staff to be able to harness that talent. What we have happening, Dev, is that there's a big disparity between local cricket, which is regional cricket, and the next level. So something is a myth. Can our coaching staff take the players to the next level, which is international level, in terms of peer pressure? Which it now comes down to what I'm talking about. So let's look at our franchise system in the Caribbean. The Caribbean Premier League have some of the finest coaches, and so the CPL is second to the Indian Premier League in terms of viewership. But competitively, you could see quality coaches coming in the various franchises. At the regional level, which is Cricket West Indies level, more funds need to be placed in our coaching or given to our franchise owners or the franchise folks who are responsible, the Hurricanes, the Windward Island Volcanoes, the Barbados, the Jamaica. More funds need to be expounded into that area for coaching. So let's look at the Leeward Islands Hurricane. Suppose we wanted to hire Royal Dravid. Our budget does not allow us to execute that. So the minimum budget that we have means that we're just going to hire a West Indian coach because we only have enough, unless we get a godfather or unless we get a major sponsor that can be able to bring in some money so we can hire a top-end coach. And I'm saying that method has to change because coaching education is key. And at the present time, I am not sure, Dev, that our coaches can be able to take our players consistently to the next level in terms of what required. Saying that also, our players also have to understand that this is their job. So why are you waiting on a coach? You are supposed to make the coach work. You have to put in personal development. But you know what is happening, Dev? Folks are comfortable in the Caribbean. The mediocrity that is standards that are set, when players fail, we just pick them. It doesn't matter. They go from series to series. And there are some players who get dropped. So you have players from the Leewers and Windwards. They're having a hard time. You know, you have an Alzari Joseph who gets a county contract, but can't find himself in a West Indies team. You have a Kyle Mayers who made a double 100 on test debut and has now become a bowler, but is still playing in the West Indies team. You have a system where you're on tour in Sri Lanka. You're taking 4 spinners. Vasami Pamal, you're taking Jomel Warrican, you're taking Ruston Chase, you're taking Rakeem Cornwall. There's only one match winner there in Rakeem Cornwall. So why are you taking Vasami Pamal? Vasami Pamal is not going to win your test match. So why not take somebody like a Raymond Reefer, who has shown consistently over a period of time that he could be developed into a lovely all-rounder.
He
And
batted
he
really
can bat.
well when the last time the team toured New Zealand, I remember. A
Yes.
very promising
So
all-round.
why not give him an opportunity?
Right.
What has Shamar Brooks done to deserve not to be on that tour? If we're talking about the best of the best games, the last
His 111 against Afghanistan, that test match century.
Shamar Brooks performed, but yet he still can't find himself in the team.
Right.
The issue, you've dropped Kyron Powell, and you brought in another opening batsman, Solanzo. It's kind of mind-boggling to me in terms of what you're doing. And I just feel that the officials are playing politics. There's a little insularity going on. Everybody trying to keep everybody happy rather than looking at the real problems of West Indies cricket. So it's like you have a sewer. And all you do, Dev, as soon as it starts to weep, you take off that plaster and you put on a new plaster. And you hear somebody say, West Indies cricket is turning the corner. That's not how you fix West Indies cricket. What you do is that you look at the systems that are ahead of you. Why are we still picking Shannon Gabriel when we know that he's injured? You know, these are questions that are still being asked. When you know that he's not going to be effective. I'm wondering sometimes, Dev, if the selectors and the management team are looking at the same stats that I'm looking at. Because one alone can just look at the player's body language and can know that who looks like they're committed to West Indies cricket and who is not committed to West Indies cricket. Kemar Roach has shown you in his latter part of his career that he's committed to West Indies cricket and that he's a match winner. We don't have anybody, Dev, in our bowling lineup that can win us a match because we are not investing in trying to make sure that we get match winners. That is supposed to be our focus. We need to be able to bowl out test teams. We have to get bowlers who are going to get 20 wickets. We have to get match winners. Yeah. We have to create match winners. And I'm saying again, Dev, to you, I don't know if our coaching staff is progressing our players. And if you look at our players, has our players under Phil Simmons progressed? Has our players under Phil Simmons gone to the level where you can say, hey, well, we have some match winners who can be able to win us test matches? I'm still yet to see that happening.
All right, sir. Amazing insights, and you poured your heart out with, of course, your quintessential cerebral powers. And I just hope that this message reaches the people who are in the position to take decisions. To turn around a corner in a West Indies cricket actually means to turn around a corner in cricket itself. These are my parting thoughts. Thank you for joining.
But just before you go there,
please.
We can't turn the corner if we don't put systems in place to help our cricketers. We are not short of talent, Dev, in the Caribbean. What we're short of is the proper human resources to be able to allow this talent to blossom. That is what we're short of. That is the area that we really need to address. The under-19s, the West Indies under-19, we're getting ready for the ICC under-19 World Cup. We have an abundance of talent, but we have to get the right personnel around so that the players could be themselves, where they could be West Indian cricketers, where we can teach them the game. How are we using our legends? How are we using our legends to inspire our young cricketers, whether it be boys or girls? That's an area of my concern. How do we get a Sir Andy Roberts to come in and speak to a West Indies under-19 team so that they can understand some of the work in progress, what they have to do at an early age? We have to find specific roles for our mentors. They're maybe not going to be coaches, but they can come in as mentors, our legends, and they can be able to inspire our next generation. That's what we need to do. Let's look at we're having some problems with our batters. So why have we not engaged Brian Charles Lara in a more meaningful way? I know he's busy around the world with commitments, but he's also committed to West Indies cricket. Why have we not using Desmond Haynes?
Brian Lara is finding time to commentate on IPL, but his own people are not utilizing him to rally around the West Indies, which actually should be the mantra of the day, the order of the day. That to me is baffling. It's baffling.
Let's look at the last position. Desmond Haynes and Phil Simmons came down where they were the shortlisted for the West Indies head coach job. Phil Simmons got the job. But we have not used Desmond Haynes in any other role. We picked Floyd Weaver to be our under-19 coach. So is that a snub to Desmond Haynes? What message are we sending? You know, Otis Gibson is over there coaching with Bangladesh. Don't we think it's time enough to engage Otis Gibson to come back home and be part of our high performance center as our head coach? These are conversations. These are real conversations.
Right? The 2012 World Cup winning coach.
Just maybe. I don't know. But I'm saying we have real questions. We have real questions and we need real answers. And I think the time has come where we have to make some unpopular decisions, Dev, which are not going to be in favor. Administrators are put there to lead, and leaders need to lead. Some people you're gonna have to kick down the door. You're gonna have to rub some people hard. But in order for West Indies cricket to go forward, we have to make tough decisions, put the right people in the right positions, and invest in our young people and give them an opportunity with a clear mindset.
Right. Water them plants, and tomorrow they will become trees that will nurture lives, is all I make of it. Is all West Indies should make of this, and so much more. Thank you for all the wonderful insights, sir. Sheldon Cottrell style salute for these amazing takes. Until we chat again, and we shall very soon. Thank you, listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you.